show is sponsored by Hivemind CRM. It is more than just a CRM. It is a real estate and business mastermind that comes with an all-in-one CRM. You can have unlimited websites and users. You can call, text, RVM, and email all in one user interface. And you can set up custom automations for any type and multiple businesses. 65% of companies start using a CRM system within the first 5 years of business. Once implemented, the Hivemind will save you on marketing, give you more time, and make more money. One of our users had his first $100,000 month using our system in June. We want to see you automate and accelerate your business. Text us at 210-972-1842 for future meetings and, of course, to get our $1 course on how to make more than 6 figures on one land deal. You can schedule your free demo today at hivemindcrm.io.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Hivemind CRM podcast. Hive with us. Today we're sitting here we have, as always, Daniel Martinez and Anthony Gauna. I apologize if I'm butchering your name there, Anthony. And today our special guest is Tim Bratz with the Commercial Family Empire. Tim is here to talk to us about a wealth of commercial real estate information, investing experience, and his newest software as a service, which I believe is here to help take over the internet. So, welcome,
Nice.
Tim.
What's up, guys? I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome.
Glad to have you.
One of the first things we're always like asking is like, how did you end up in real estate? Because a lot of people sometimes people fall into it or they kind of like appear into it, but I think you had a purpose. So can you talk about how you got into commercial real estate?
Yeah, man. Well, I mean, I was going through college when the market was going crazy before. So 03 to 07, everybody's making money in real estate. I get into real estate. I think a lot of the same way that a lot of other people do is, I thought you had to become a real estate agent. So I first started out, I had like a painting company in college. So I understood a little bit of the trades, home builder, and then I ended up getting my real estate license and I moved out to New York City. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio originally. And when I was out there, I ended up putting my license with a commercial real estate brokerage. And I brokered like leases for office space, retail space. And brokered a lease that was a 12-year term, 4% annual increases, and it ended up being that the owner was going to make like $2 million on this little 400 square foot space over the course of the next 12 years. And I was like, damn, I need to be on that side of the coin. So I decided I want to become a real estate investor. But then I got into, I think we all kind of go through this graduation of we start out as an agent, and then we start wholesaling, and then we start flipping, and then we start buying single family rentals, and then you get into some smaller multi. And that's kind of what my journey did too. And in 2012, I think it was December 17th of 2012, I bought my first apartment building. It was an 8-unit building in Cleveland, Ohio, in a C-class neighborhood, but it was bank owned, and you could buy anything for pennies on the dollar back then. And so I bought that 8 units, and dude, just the scale of being able to negotiate with one seller instead of 8 sellers, right? Being able to look at one roof instead of 8 roofs, looking at one foundation instead of 8 foundations, meeting my contractor at one location instead of 8 locations, like paying one tax bill instead of 8 tax bills, setting up utilities one time instead of 8 times. Like, dude, there's so many scales and efficiencies that come in place with commercial real estate that I was like, this is really what aligns with my goals and what aligns with my ambitions and aligns with, my that sense of efficiency that I've always, kind of pursued. And I dove deep into apartments after that. And so fast forward today, I was up to about 4,800 doors Wow.
At one
time in my portfolio. I sold off a little over 1,000 of them over the past 12 months. I'm actually selling another 1,500 right now. And then we're going in acquisition mode again, big time. Just kind of trimming the fat from my portfolio, selling off some of the smaller buildings, the C-class buildings, more the tenant-friendly states, like some of those properties, and just focusing kind of like in my own backyard. I live in Charleston, South Carolina now. So doing a lot of stuff in the Carolinas, Georgia, Alabama, Florida, that kind of area.
Outstanding.
Hey, how long was that period, man, from buying that first 8 unit until now? What's the time?
That was December of 2012. So we're talking about 9 years.
Oof, that's a lot of information, lots of deals looked at.
Yeah. It's like, what's funny is when you take a look at the trajectory is like, I bought that 8 unit and I got up for the next 3 years from 2012 to 2015. I collected about 140 doors. And I thought it was like, my goal was $100 million in portfolio value, just get to a $100 million portfolio. And then I had a couple exclusive partners. That partnership ended up folding. We ended up going different ways. We had to liquidate the entire portfolio. So I'm like, damn, dude, like I had to press the reset button. And it was like a big setback in my mind. But really, some of those things that you think are setbacks are really setups for better things in the future. And that's exactly what that was. All of a sudden, people started coming out of the woodwork saying, dude, I want to partner with you. I want to joint venture with you. How do we do some deals together? I knew that we couldn't before because you had that exclusive partnership. But now, that you're on your own, let's do some deals. And so I started rebuilding my current portfolio in 2015. And, in 2015, I picked up 80 doors. In 2016, I picked up another about 194 doors, I think. So, and then in 2017, I bought another 300 doors. And then in 2018, I picked up over 1,000 doors, right? In 2019, I picked up 2,000 doors. So it's like there's this snowball effect, this doubling every single year kind of a thing that happened. But it all started out with buying an 8 unit in 2012. And, for the next 3 years, kind of growing. And then all of a sudden I was able to find some momentum. So it looks like, what do they say? Like if you took a look at a pond and those lily pads, they double every single day. And, I don't know how long it takes, but let's call it 3 weeks in order to fill up the whole thing. You realize on the 20th day, only half the pond is filled. The other half of the pond gets filled the next day, right? All in one day. So this momentum that gets created, if you just keep your head down and you don't look left, you don't look right, you just keep on doing the activities that yield results, eventually you'll catch some momentum. And then, dude, when it starts, you're almost like afraid to lose it, right? Like I came into real estate in 2009 when I first started investing, realizing like there was no momentum. And when you come from not ever having momentum and then you get it, you're like almost afraid to lose it. And so then you start working harder and then you get more results, right? And then you're like, I can't lose that momentum either. And you start working harder and you just keep on doubling down. And that's kind of what we've been doing. So we didn't really chill out until a little bit after COVID hit and the eviction moratorium was in place and we couldn't get appliances and a bunch of our value add deals. And then, the labor force was non-existent because everybody's getting paid to stay at home. And we're like, you know what, let's just focus on our existing portfolio. So really for the past 18 months or so, I've been really focused on stabilizing my current portfolio, selling off some of the things that I don't see myself holding on to for the next 10, 15, 20 years. And selling off some of the smaller things and just kind of, again, trimming the fat, refining what our current portfolio looks like, keeping all the properties that we do want to hold on to for the next 20 years, and then just doubling down on stuff like that meets our buying criteria.
What does the acquisition side look like? Because I know you guys probably make a ton of offers and your KPIs as far as what it takes to acquire a deal at operating at such a high level.
Yeah. So it changes though, like something that you guys might be willing to buy might not be something that I'd be willing to buy, or something that you're not willing to buy is something that I might buy, So if you're just getting into multifamily, like when I tell a bunch of people that come to me for coaching and consulting and stuff is like, dude, just get the momentum going, right? Like that's the most important part. It doesn't matter if it's a 6-unit building or a 60-unit building or a 600-unit portfolio. Like the important part is just getting the momentum built up. So that's what I ended up doing in order to get the momentum. So I started buying smaller deals and anything that was a deal. I didn't look for home runs. Baseball games are not won with home runs. They're won with base hits, right? The more base hits you can have, the more runs you're going to score. So I just look for base hit after base hit after base hit. And there's good deals in every market, despite what they're saying on the news and like the values are out of control. There's motivated sellers every day. There's somebody, who wants to retire. There's somebody who got kicked in the nuts because of COVID. There's somebody who is getting divorced and needs to liquidate their entire portfolio before they can finalize their divorce, right? Like there's stuff like that that's going on where people are like, hey, a hurricane came through or a storm came through. I got the insurance check. I don't want to rebuild this thing. Come and take the property. You know what I mean? Like I got paid from the insurance money. So like, dude, there's stuff like that all the time. And we come across it even in this market. So yeah, I can go over some like we look at over 400 deals a month in order to try to take down one, right? But we have a very strict buy box. We're only looking at 100 units and bigger, built in the past 20 years, hit a certain return metric for us and our investors. It's got to be in a landlord-friendly state, so there's very, very specific things. Whereas if I was just getting started or talking to somebody who's just getting started, I'd be like, dude, just start taking stuff down. If it's 8 units, 18 units, 40 units, start buying it, get up to a couple hundred doors, and then you can get a seat at the table to go and bid on 100-unit apartment complexes. But go out and make sure that you get in front of, or start building the portfolio, building your balance sheet first. That's the most important thing that you can do.
Wow. Okay. So building a balance sheet, this is being bankable, having your numbers in order, getting cash flow, having you have capital tucked away, I guess, into different properties, having equity. How does one go from having very little to no cash flow, to becoming bankable?
Yeah, man. So think about like, what are the most important things that you could be doing in real estate? And really, dude, if you boil it down, it's down to like 3 things is what I've been able to boil it down to. One is sourcing deals, right? Always out there finding great opportunities and always making offers. I remember early on in my career, I'd have like these feast and famine cycles of we'd pour a bunch of fuel on the marketing. We'd have all these deals come into our pipeline, all these phone calls and sellers reaching out to us. And I'd be like, turn off the marketing, right? And then let's work all these deals. And we'd take all the deals down, we'd renovate them, we'd get them back on the market. And then I'd be like, all right, what does the next 90 days look like? And it was like crickets, right? Because there were no deals in the pipeline because we turned off the marketing funnel. So I was like, what the hell? So like, one thing you always have to be doing, regardless of how many deals you have or not, is always be marketing for deals, right? Always be sourcing new opportunities, always be looking at deals. Like, we haven't really been in acquisition mode for the past 18 months, but we're still looking at deal after deal after deal after deal, because it keeps a finger on the pulse of the market. And if a home run does come through, or a really, really good opportunity that we're looking for does pop up, we'll turn forward and we'll snag it. So always be sourcing deals. That's number one. If you don't have money, that's a great way to bring value to somebody who does have money. Typically people with money are kind of lazy. They don't really want to do the work. They want to pay somebody else to go out and do it. You can go out, source opportunities, bring those opportunities to them, and either get a fee or earn some equity in those projects. So that's a great way where if you're just getting started, you're trying to figure out where do you fit into this big puzzle of real estate, learn how to find awesome off-market direct-to-seller deals and underwrite them and lock them up. Like, if you can do that, you can bring a ton of value to the marketplace right now. So that's number one. Number two is, I would say, learn how to raise money. There are a bunch of courses out there on raising capital. We talk a lot about it in our mastermind and in my commercial empire course. But like, I just saw the Legacy Wealth YouTube channel pop up. Appreciate you guys sharing that. But there's a video in there about how I raised $4 million in 48 hours before, when my back was against the wall on a deal that was closing on Monday morning, and my investor had to fall out on Friday morning. So I had to raise $4 million in the next 48 hours for a Monday morning closing. And I talk about the psychology of raising capital, where to go and find the money, what to say, how to say it. It's a science and an art kind of a thing, right? And so learn how to go out and raise capital. If you can just go out and raise capital, chances are you can find somebody who knows how to, who can find deals, right? And you can buy their deals from them, or partner with them, or bring capital and get a piece of the equity in that project because of it. So always be raising money. This game is a lot about a balancing act of deal flow and money flow. And sometimes you're deal heavy, sometimes you're money heavy. Very rarely are you both at the same time. Very rarely.
No, I was going to say, I have a million questions popping up in my mind, and would like to take a little bit closer look at some of this stuff, like even raising capital. So just to circle back to it, so I don't forget, if you have a couple of tips in raising capital without giving away the secret sauce, and then we would love to hear about the mastermind and where can we go to dive further into raising capital.
Yeah,
as well.
dude, I give a ton of value for free out there, so it's like I'm happy to share the secret sauce. Secret sauce is always be raising money, always be talking to people all the time about what you do and how you do it. All these people are like, oh yeah, I want to become a real estate investor. And then they don't talk about it. They don't share what they do on social media. They don't go and do a Facebook Live when they're walking an apartment complex. They're not interviewing their attorney. They're not interviewing their mortgage broker. They're not interviewing their real estate broker. They're not talking to these people and creating value for other people, right? You guys interviewing me brings credibility to you, even though I'm the one doing most of the talking right now, right? Because you're the medium in which you're giving this value to your audience. So you guys get the credibility there. It gives me credibility too, but it also gives you credibility. So that's something that I learned early on, is like, I could just go grab my attorney and be like, hey man, what should somebody do if they want to invest in, and loan money on real estate? And he'd be like, oh, well, you need a promissory note, you need a mortgage, and you need your name added to the insurance. And this guy, the attorney, is giving all the value to my audience, but my audience sees me as the credible expert because I brought him on. Does that make sense?
Wow. Yeah, that's
so
really awesome.
You don't have to be the expert. You just need to go out and find the experts, interview them. It gives them exposure to your audience, which is a benefit and value add to them. And it gives your audience a ton of value, in which you get the credibility for. So that's the secret sauce, right? And you're talking about it. And dude, it's kind of like that, that penny compounding and doubling every single day with the deal flow. The money's the same way. Eventually you've planted enough seeds. You've talked to so many people about what you do and how you do it that when a deal does come across your desk and you go need to raise $11 million for it, boom, you shoot out an email and all these people are already in your database. They already know what you do. They're already comfortable with you as an individual. And now it's just like, does the deal work or not? Obviously, it wouldn't be you wouldn't take it to them if it wasn't a deal. But more importantly, now it's about timing for them, right? And that's a big thing that I learned in raising $4 million in 48 hours. A lot of people were like, dude, I didn't even know that you raised money this way. How come you never told me about this before? And I was like, shit, it's my fault for not doing that, right? And then the second thing was like, I love this. I just don't have the cash. I just invested in another project, or I'm waiting for my other building to sell, or I'm like, there's always like some sort of a timing issue, which is why it's important to always be planting seeds and always staying top of mind, right? When we make payments, we're making quarterly distributions this month. They go out in January, April, July, and October for our business. And we reach out to everybody. We give them quarterly updates. We make deposits into their bank account for the past 3 months of interest payments. And then we tell them about new projects that are going on. The best time to touch base with your investors is on payday. That's a good time. They're in a pretty good mood when they see money pending in their bank account. And they're like, oh man, this actually works, right? It's a proof of concept piece. So make sure you're talking to people all the time, especially people that you're already doing business with, because you've already gotten past the biggest hurdle. The biggest hurdle is just getting them to believe in you, right? Like real estate's not difficult to raise money on. People are familiar and comfortable with real estate. The return is the second thing that they're looking at. So, number one is the asset. Number two is the return and making sure that the reward is worth the risk, I would say. And, opportunity cost, where else could they put the money? So you have to pay attention to those things. But dude, the most important thing in raising money is this guy going to pay me back, right? Do you have the fortitude to repay me my money? It's not about return on investment. It's about return of investment for most people. And as soon as you get past that return of investment, now it's like, how much money can you deploy for me, right? Because now they trust you enough where now they're looking to do multiple deals. That first deal is the hardest one to do. So you got to go out there, do deals, do a lot of deals, build confidence with your investors and show them that you do what you say you're going to do. You follow through on it. You pay them on time. You pay them early. If shit hits the fan, you communicate it and give them an action plan on how you're going to overcome any hurdles that you face. Because it will hit the fan. It always hits the fan. So it's not like painting a picture of roses and rainbows and butterflies and shit. It's like, hey, I just got punched in the gut and slapped in the face and this and all these other things happen. But here's what we did. We got right through it. Here's the action plan moving forward. Boom, 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 boom. And your money's in a good spot. Don't worry about it. Right? And now they're like, man, I really appreciate that.
And it's also how you handle situations like that determines whether or not, A, they reinvest with you, but also the 10 friends that they're going to tell, hey, you've got money. This is what happened when this guy had problems. We know they're going to happen.
Yep.
He performed.
Yep.
Our principal was safe and we're still solid.
Yep. Exactly.
Insane, man. Yeah. So the more you talk, like I said, I wish I was just writing stuff down because I could probably drag this on for a while. But back to segue, always be sourcing deals, let people know what you're doing, right? Learn how to raise the capital. So we just talked about it's kind of like public facing, showing people exactly what you're doing so to attract new people. And so, okay, so now we have the credibility, we have some cash put away. So becoming bankable itself, like having the proper business structure to where a bank would look at your balance sheet and say, hey, this looks amazing. How do you get to that level now? Is it like bringing on professional bookkeepers and what does that look like?
Here's the good news, guys. Like a team building is a very important thing, right? Everybody wants a real business. Everybody looks at these big organizations and these people. Like before I had a big portfolio and a big company and all these employees and stuff, I would look at other businesses and be like, how the hell do you get there, right? How do you build a big business like that? You know what I was doing? I was trying to 1099 everybody instead of putting anybody on a W-2, right? Mm-hmm. I'm trying to not pay early on. I was trying to not pay health insurance. I was trying to skip. I wanted a real business, but I wasn't treating it like a real business. Guess what? You want a real company, you got to have a real company benefits. You got to have real employees. You got to be able to compete with real companies, right? If you want to attract A players on your team. And so that's one thing to understand, just, kind of when you're building a team. But early on, man, you don't have a lot of capital, right? right? You don't have a lot of cash. How do you attract A players to your team, or not even A players, right? It could be anybody to your team when you don't have a big amount of cash to go and deploy. Like, how do you hire an assistant? And I remember thinking, like, I need to pay somebody $3,000 a month, or I have to pay them $36,000 a year in order to hire somebody. I was like, I made $100,000 last year. That's like 36% of what I made, And then I sat in a mastermind, right? I sat in a room. I paid $5,000 for a 2-day event to go and sit in a room full of a bunch of people who were further along in business than I was, and to get their feedback on how I could be where they are. And I sat there and I was like, I just can't, I can't stomach paying somebody $36,000 a year, and somebody's like, dude, pump the brakes. It's not $36,000 a year. It's $3,000 a month. Can you risk $3,000 a month for the next 2 months? And if it doesn't work out, dude, you let them go and you go back to banging your head against the wall and being the solo act that you already are, right? And I was like, wow, damn, that's a different thought process. That's a different philosophy, a different way of looking at it, Mm-hmm. And so all of a sudden, dude, I go and hire somebody. I went to my first mastermind in February of 2015, where that was the advice that I got. I did 2 things. I hired an assistant for $3,000 a month, and then I joined that mastermind, which was another $3,000 a month. It was actually $35,000 paid within, I don't know, I had to pay it within 5 months. So it was like 7 G's a month actually for like 5 months. And I was like, dude, I just went out to this event and this guy took about 50% of what I made last year. You know what I mean?
Talk about risking it, right?
Yeah. But I was like, these guys have the lifestyle that I wanted. They were doing things, and I had enough competency and belief in myself that I knew that I knew there was like 1 or 2 tweaks that I was just missing out on, that if I could get those couple of things and implement it, and I was an action taker. I already was doing things. It's just I couldn't figure it out, man. I was banging my head against the wall. And I did those 2 things. I joined the mastermind and I hired that assistant. You know what happened over the next 10 months from March 1st to December 31st? I made $400,000. I more than tripled my income because of what I did the year before by doing those 2 things. I attribute 100% of the success to those 2 things. Because guess what, man? Even though I hired, hey, Tim, if you just hired that person, could you have still made $400,000? I don't think I could have, because guess what? Each level has another level of problems. Every level has another level of hurdles. There's another level of obstacles that come with each level of success. And the beauty of like being in a mastermind, a group that meets on a few times a year, 3-4 times a year, the beauty of that is like you implement something that's a great takeaway, and over the next 90 to 120 days, typically you hit that glass ceiling again. You're like, damn, I found out what the new problem was. And that's when you have the next meeting. And then you're like, boom, got the takeaway, smash through that glass ceiling onto the next level. And that is what took my growth, not like a stair, right? A stairwell where you go up. Everybody thinks success is like this. No, success was like this for me. It was like a hockey stick, and then it went like that. All because I joined a mastermind, dude. I attribute a lot of my success to that.
What do you think the catalyst was, like bringing on another person? Was it just like freeing yourself up to do, like getting rid of the menial task so you had more time to focus on like, real money generating activities? Or where do you think the magic sauce was in implementing?
100% in that. 100% that. It's figuring out what generates revenue and what does not. And if you're doing activities that you can hire somebody else to do for $10 an hour, and you're doing those activities, dude, if you're doing a $10 an hour activity, guess how much money you're going to make during that hour? Fucking $10, dude. It's $10, right? Like, it's not a surprise. Like, you don't have to be a friggin' neurosurgeon in order to figure this out. If you do $10 an hour activities, you're going to end up at the end of the year making $10 an hour times however many hours you did that activity. That's it, right? If you do activities that pay you $100 an hour, or $500 or $1,000 or $5,000 an hour, then guess how much money you're going to make at the end of the year? You're going to make that much money times however many hours you dedicated to that activity. So understanding that simple concept, you all of a sudden you're like, hey, here's how much money I want to make. Boom, boom, boom. All right. And it's never really like, we're entrepreneurs, right? So it's never really like, oh, let me go and work for an hour and then I made $1,000. No, that's not it. It's like it compounds kind of a thing. And then you do a deal and then you make $60,000. You know what I mean? So I don't want you to think that you're just going to go out and trade your time for money. It's a make an investment of your time that eventually yields to a big yield on that time. So, but I do know that if you continue to do those $10 an hour activities, like, you will not make big money. So you have to figure out, if you want to make more than $100 an hour, you got to take everything that you can staff out for under $100 an hour, and you got to hand it off to somebody else, whether that's an assistant or it's a joint venture partner, which I don't think I'd bring on a joint venture partner who only wants to make $10 an hour. Or it's like a fractional employee. So like you mentioned a bookkeeper earlier, you don't have to hire a full-time bookkeeper right out of the gate. Like I hired a service that I paid, I don't know, $150 an hour or something, or $75. I don't even know what it was. $75 an hour too. And I gave them the receipts at the end of the month. And they worked on my account for like 2 hours a month, just kind of throwing the bookkeeping in there. And then as I continued to grow, then I needed them one full day a month, right? Or like every 2 weeks for half a day, and then all of a sudden I needed them a day every 2 weeks. And then all of a sudden I needed them a day a week. And then all of a sudden I needed them 3 days a week. And I was like, you know what? Now it makes sense for me to just bring on somebody full time because that's how much I'm paying this third party service. But it allowed me to not outlay too much cash and take on too much overhead of having employees. And it allowed me to then grow my business with like variable rate employees, right? At their rate went up as how much I utilized them went up as my company grew. So yeah, I mean that's what I would focus on.
Genius, man. Yeah, I think we're right there in Hivemind. Like we're starting to delegate tasks. Business is starting to feed itself. So I think we're right there where we can start getting more strategic about our books to get to the next level. But the organism is doing very, very well. So exciting, man. This sounds amazing. If you have something you want to cover too, man, it's just a live show, everybody that's watching. So if you had questions, please pop them into the chat box. I don't know if you had something you wanted to cover, Tim, but something that I wanted to chat about now is no, I was going to ask now because what I'm thinking is, okay, now I'm excited about commercial. I'm ready to rock and roll. I guess now can we kind of segue into how you generate those leads now? So you have a software that would help us find these leads?
Yeah, well, first of all, like you can source deals the same way that you source deals on the single family side. Like what do you use? Okay. You guys use direct mail. You guys do outbound phone calls. You guys drive for dollars. You dial for dollars. You guys, pull lists and send mailers to those lists, right? Like there's a lot of different ways. Guess what? You could do the exact same thing with commercial. So you pull these lists and you get lists of owners. You can send them direct mail. You can do a skip trace and then get their phone number, get their email address, send them an email, send them a text message, make a phone call to them. And the beauty of it is there's not as many as there are in the single family world. And they're all investor minded, right? They're all buying property as investment property. This is commercial real estate. So it's not like you're dealing with somebody who, is temperamental, has emotions on whether they love their house or they don't love their house or anything.
Yeah.
And for every 10 of those that you send on the single family side, you have about 1/10 as many that you need to send on the multifamily and commercial side. So yeah, it's like, where do you go and get those lists? So you can go and buy a list from ListSource and implement it yourself and do a bunch of skip tracing kind of stuff. CoStar is out there. That's kind of the 800-pound gorilla in the data sourcing world. But if you want national access to CoStar, it's $25,000 a year for investors and developers, $25,000. And then there's Reonomy, but they got bought by private equity. It kind of fell off the cliff. So their customer service isn't good. Their data's not that good. So about 9 months ago, a buddy of mine who is one of the largest data aggregators on the single family side, you would know his company name. His name's Greg Clement. RealFlow is the name of his company. And we got together and he's like, listen, man, I'm thinking about launching a product on the commercial side of things. Would love to partner up with you and joint venture and have you be kind of the face of it, right? Like you got a great reputation on the commercial side. So I was like, let's do it. So, delivered a product about 4 months ago, let's call it. And it was like a 3 out of 10 of where we wanted to be. So we've been giving them feedback and working with their team who's been amazing. They've been so good. And they've implemented all these benefits and all these things that we wanted to see. And dude, now it's like 8 out of 10. There's a couple more tweaks that we're still making to it in order to like skip trace right in the software. We can do direct mail right in the software. And skip tracing is a little bit tricky with commercial real estate because it's not an individual name, it's an LLC name. But we're going to have something implemented in that. Partner up with a buddy of mine, Jason Nickel, who owns Lead Sherpa, and Lead Sherpa has the best software out there for skip tracing on commercial real estate. So right now we're linked up with them where it's like, hey, take this list and partner up with them. And then it'll be fully integrated in the next couple of weeks is what we're hoping. But it's called Commercial Empire Deal Flow. If you guys have interest in, you can look up any property you want, any commercially zoned property, apartments, mobile home parks, self-storage facilities, student housing, retail, office, hotels and hospitality, even like goofy special use. Like if you want to buy golf courses, you can buy golf courses on there. You can search golf courses or gas stations, like legit anything you possibly could want, you can search in there. And there's filters where you can search something that's been owned for at least 10 years or longer, something that doesn't have a mortgage or there's a certain amount of equity built up because of, how long they've owned it for, tax delinquent property. So like, where are you guys out of? What city?
I'm in San Antonio.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bro, you could pull up San Antonio, Texas, all multifamily apartments in all of San Antonio, Texas, plug in whatever zip codes you want that are tax delinquent, meaning they have not paid their property taxes, and they're owned free and clear. And it'll give you the list of every single owner that owns an apartment over 50 units, right? Like however big you want. And you could do it in Jacksonville, Florida too, Frank. Like anywhere you guys want in the country, you can put as specific of data as you want in there and filter it all out, and it'll give you a highly motivated list of investors. So, dude,
can you target by asset class? Like you can go mini storage or whatever. Just you can pick anything. You can pull up
self-storage that's under 500 units in self-storage, right? So it's kind of like below what all the REITs and the hedge funds are willing to buy, but bigger than maybe some of the mom and pop investors. And you're able to go in and target 500 units and smaller, or 100 to 500 unit storage units, and that are owned in somebody's personal name and not in an LLC. Now you're dealing more with a mom and pop instead of like more of a sophisticated investor who buys an LLC, right, in a corporation name. So like, dude, it is a ninja software, and we have packages that are run at $1,000 a year, $2,000 a year, or $3,000 a year. That's it. So it's better than CoStar, it's better than Reonomy, and it's a fraction of the price of what those ones charge. So it's cedealflow.com, like Commercial Empire Deal Flow. cedealflow.com is a website, but it's up, it's operational. Check it all out. Can you search by type of loan for multifamily? I don't think type of loan, like recourse, non-recourse. It'd be whatever's in public data, whatever we can access by public data. That's a great question, Sammy. I'll look into that. Let me double check with the guys and see if that's one of the filters. But yeah, I mean, it's on the mortgage. We can look up mortgage signers. You can do all sorts of stuff. So it's pretty cool. It's really cool. We're super excited about it.
Dude, I was gonna say, I hope we don't breeze right past this. If anybody's watching this show right now, because I'm just starting to lean into commercial now. So a tool like you're offering and that you just talked about, it simplified. My brain was starting to do all this crazy marketer stuff. I've had a marketing background for 15 years. So I was already going down all these rabbit holes of how I can find these properties, and you've already consolidated it all into one interface.
Yeah, dude. I mean, dude,
and it's getting better.
You can pull the list, you can skip trace it, and then you can attack any way that you want. You can do direct mail, you can do outbound phone calls, you can do text messages, you can do email blasts, right? The skip tracing is depending on who you want to skip trace and how many you want to skip trace. I think it's 12 cents per skip trace or something. And then if you want to integrate, you can upload your own direct mail piece and say, hey, I want to send to all these, and then they'll fire it all out. And it's like, I don't even know, I think it's $1 or something, maybe not even per direct mail piece. And they'll fire it all out for you. You don't have to worry about coordinating any of it. It's all right there. So it's pretty cool. And again, we're still making a few more tweaks, and we're going to keep on adding stuff. So if you guys use it and you see something that you want, the good news is the owner, right? So like hit me up, and I will make sure that we do offer that. So like what Sammy was saying was, can we search by loan type? I don't know. It depends on if that's public record or not. In certain states, it could be. In certain states, it might not be. Whether it's a recourse or non-recourse, and an agency loan or Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, or CMBS or life insurance company or whoever else. But yeah, I know that you can search by mortgage amount. I know that you can search by when the mortgage obviously was put on the property, and all sorts of other things. So it assumes a certain amount of equity that's in the property based on principal pay down and all that kind of stuff of when the loan and how much the loan was when it was put in place. So it's pretty ninja. Yes, it covers the entire country, Frank.
Yeah, awesome. We have a question about fourplex and eightplex. It says you mentioned building the balance sheet starting from fourplex to eightplex. How does that make you bankable in the eyes of a lender?
Yeah, because you've done deals, right? Like if you go and you own 10 single family homes. Well, first of all, if you've never done a deal and you want to go and get a 10 unit apartment building, it's going to be a little bit hard, right? You gotta then sell yourself to the bank, right? If you own 10 single family homes and then you want to buy a 10 unit apartment building, that's going to give you some credibility. If you already own a 10 unit apartment building and you want to buy another 10 unit apartment building, that's going to give you the most credibility, right? So if you're looking to eventually take down 100 unit apartment complex, which I'd assume many of you guys are, you want to get into some bigger deals, larger projects, have even more scale than in smaller multifamily. How do you get there? If you try to jump right into a 100 unit complex right out of the gate and you don't own 100 doors, you're competing with a guy like me. Not pounding my chest or anything. I'm just saying, like, I have a big ass portfolio, right? No offense, but even if your offer's higher than mine, they're going to go to me because they know that I can execute. They know that I can close on that deal, right?
Guaranteed win.
I get a seat at a table to make offers on projects that most other people don't because of my reputation, right? So I want you guys to build that same reputation to be able to get a seat at the table with brokers and with sellers and with banks. So how do you do that if you can't come to the table and compete with these big real estate landlords right out of the gate? How do you do it? Well, you do it the same way that I did, which was organically growing. I bought an 8 unit, and then I bought a 14 unit, and then I bought a 23 unit, and then I bought a 31 unit, and then I bought an 80 unit because I had 80 doors by then. So like I just organically accumulated properties, and eventually I got up to 200, 300, 400 units, and then I got up to like 500, and then I bought a portfolio of 700 doors.
Can we talk about creative financing? Because I watched a couple of your presentations in the past about you utilizing creative financing, because most people think it's a myth that you can do creative finance deals in the commercial sector. So can we talk about some deals you've done as far as creative financing? Because a lot of people think they need a lot of money to do those type of transactions, but if you do it creatively, you can create those opportunities.
Dude, I love creative finance. It's like my favorite part of doing real estate is structuring deals in a creative way, but still a simple way that where everybody can understand it. Investors can understand it, sellers can understand it, the team can understand it, wrap their head around it. Boom. Most people say, hey, I got to go get a loan, I need to save up my own money, and then I need to go and buy a property. It's not the case. That's not the only path to go and build a portfolio. I built up a $400 million portfolio using $125,000 of my own cash.
Wow.
That's it, right? As an equity investor. Now I throw more money in, but early on, I didn't have the money, right? And I needed to stay liquid in order to then qualify for some of these loans. So how do you do it? How do you creatively finance? Well, first of all, understand the components. Usually there's the loan and then there's the down payment, right? Or the private money. And so the loan can come from a bank or it can come from the seller, right? The private money can come from you or it can come from private lenders or it can come from the seller, right? So like there's a few different components that are involved of ways that you can put the pieces of the puzzle together. So I syndicate apartments, right? I go and buy an apartment building. I can go get a mortgage for 80%. And then for the 20% down, I go and raise private money. So, let's say I buy a $10 million building and I need $2 million for the down payment. I can go and raise that $2 million from one person who writes one check for $2 million, or I can bring 20 people on. This is called syndication. I can bring on 20 people with $100,000 a piece or anything in the middle, right? And so it allows more people, and it's easier to raise $100,000 than it is a $2 million check writer, right? So it allows you to then go and raise capital from multiple people for the down payment on that project. If the bank didn't give me the money, I could just ask the seller to finance and say, hey, listen, let me give you 20% down, you carry back 80% of it. And I've done that. I did that with my island. I bought an island right next to Hilton Head Island in South Carolina. Okay. Yeah. I bought a 110-acre island down there. I'm doing like tiny cabins and like a fishing, hunting, workout, fun, outdoorsy kind of a retreat. On this island, I got the seller last summer, 9 months ago when I bought this, August of last year. I got the seller to carry back 70% of the deal at 4% interest only for 3 years. And then the rate bumps up a little bit for another 2 years thereafter. So I got him to carry back 70%. And then I went to my investors and I raised the 30% down for my investors. Now I did that. The trouble with some of these like short-term rentals, they don't cash flow that much, right? But the beauty of it is that they're usable. And especially on that island, what I'm able to do is I went to my investors and I said, hey, I can't pay you guys a 10% return, which is what I typically pay my investors 8 to 10%. I can't pay you guys a 10% return. Here's what I can do. I can pay you a 4. Well, Tim, that doesn't get me too excited. Let me wait for one of the others. But you'll also get a piece of the equity in the deal of the island, and you can come out and stay in the main house, which is a 4-bed, 4.5 bath, built in 2005, fully renovated in the past couple of months. And it's got an in-ground pool and everything. Beautiful, beautiful home. You get to stay there for 1 week a year. We would typically rent that for $10,000. So now you bring $100,000 to my deal. You get 4% return, which is $4,000 a year. Plus you get access to utilize the property, which is another $10,000 a year in rental use. And if you don't use it, hey, sell it to one of your buddies for $6, $7, $8,000 or whatever, and you could pocket that money yourself. So now you can essentially hit that 10, 12% return if you really want to, or you can utilize it and take your family out there and show them how cool of a property it is. And then you get a little fraction, a little sliver of the cash flow from the property and the equity upside in the property. That's a pretty sweet deal, dude, even though you're only making a 4% fixed return on your money. So it's, we did that with that. I've done it with my mountain house. I did the exact same structure. And then I did it again with another just like ridiculous riverfront property. It's actually right next to the island. We utilize that for the dock and everything. So I've done it multiple times on short-term rentals, and it works. Dude, I have people lining up. Like, we always get overcommitted just because of the way that we structure it, and it's cool, sexy projects. And sometimes people aren't always looking for the highest return on their money. They want that lifestyle element to it. Just like some sellers on the single-family side, dude, it's not about getting the most they can possibly get for the property. Sometimes they want to alleviate a headache. And so if you can figure out a way to either reduce pain or increase pleasure for people by being able to structure deals in a creative way, dude, you're going to have limitless amounts of capital.
I like how because most people think creative financing, they think of the front end, getting the seller to carry back and all that stuff. But you're doing creative financing on the back end too, where you're giving, and not a lot of people think about that as far as like, hey, we'll give you a week at the spot too. Mm-hmm. And now you're creative financing on the back end too. So yeah, that's an amazing strategy. And now my mind's working. That's so awesome.
Yeah, it's kind of cool, man. I've seen some other people kind of duplicate it, and it works out for them too. So yeah, it's exciting. And then another thing that you could do is you can go get, if you have the ability to go and get 80% of the money, maybe you can go and get 80% of the money from a bank, and then you get the seller to only carry back 20% down. So you say, hey, Mr. Seller or Miss Seller, listen, I can give you majority of your money right now. You bought this property 10 years ago, dude, you're cashing in big time. That gives you everything plus millions more. And then how about we carry back the other 20% at 0% interest? I think you might have to do like 2% or whatever. Like, there's some ways you can creatively structure it, but say, hey, 0% interest for the next 10 years. And I'm just going to make principal only payments to you over the next 10 years as a nice little kind of annuity to you every single month, right? How does that sound? Hey, it sounds pretty damn good. I can get my price, and I don't have the biggest tax liability right now. I have some residual income ongoing on a long-term basis. That sounds real good. And that's a great way where you don't have to give up any equity to them or any of your investors. You can still maintain 100% ownership of your deal and get it 100% financed.
No, it's amazing. I got my wheels are turning now. That's pretty awesome. Go ahead, Anthony.
I was going to say this could easily turn into a 2-hour episode, but we won't keep it that long.
Yeah, I gotta jump off in about 10 minutes or so, guys. Awesome. I have another meeting, but dude, happy to answer any other questions. What else you guys got? I'm an open book, man. Anything that you guys want to know, happy to provide some value any way that I can.
I had the same question as Nick Gaspari, the normal equity, right?
No, I wasn't.
Yeah, that's it right there. That's what I was going to ask. So if I bring you an A+++ deal, can I stay involved on the backside? What kind of percentage could we expect?
Yeah. So here's something to understand is this. It's a great question. First of all, it's a different deal than a flip, right? Or a wholesale deal, right? If you're wholesaling something and you bring the deal, I sell the deal, and we split the fee 50-50, dude, that makes sense, right? Because it's like a snapshot. It takes 60 to 90 days of our time, and we make a $30,000 rip on it. You get 15 G's, I get 15 G's. When you're talking about something that might take you 30, 60, 90 days to go find a deal, but you're talking about a deal that somebody else has to renovate for the next 2 years of their life. And somebody else needs to asset manage it for the next 30 years of their life. Do you realize it's not like, dude, there's some long timelines, right? So it's like, how do you quantify bringing a deal versus asset management of managing this thing for the next friggin' 30 years, right? Or who's signing on the loan and is responsible for the next 20 years? Who's bringing the actual cash to take this thing down? It's not like an assignment of a contract where it's like, yeah, it's a snapshot 50-50. I get somebody bring me a deal. They're like, hey, I want 50% of the deal on this 100-unit apartment complex. And it's like at best a base hit. You know what I mean? I'm like, bro, let me just explain this to you, right? It's not, and I don't try to talk down. It's just different. It's different than wholesaling. But there's a lot of moving parts. Who brought the deal? And here's the other thing. How much work did you do? Did you forward an email? I see that shit all the time. Hey, let me forward an email. I want 3% rip on this $70 million project. Like, how about you go and contract it? How much due diligence have you done? Did you walk the whole property? Did you contract the property? Did you put up any earnest money? Have you gotten any scope of work bids for all the work that needs to be done? Have you done any due diligence on the property from the aspect of, are there any violations? Are the taxes current? Like, dude, do something, right? Like, or are you forwarding an email? Those two things are worth a very different amount of money. Does that make sense? And then again, somebody's got to asset manage this thing. Somebody's got to project manage the renovations. Somebody needs to go down there, be boots on the ground and oversee this and meet with investors and meet with insurance adjusters and meet with the lenders representatives and dude, for the next 20 years, 30 years of ownership. So if you're wholesaling an apartment building, that could be different. But if you're buying, renovating, and then holding it long-term, you can't expect 50% of the equity. It's just not realistic. And the other thing is, like, how good of a deal is it? If you send me a marginal deal that's not that exciting, that's not worth as much as a grand slam, something that has a ton of meat on the bone. So, there's a lot of moving parts. But what I would say as a snapshot is, dude, I would expect to get paid. If I brought somebody else a deal, like I wholesale deals, I expect 2%. If I get 2% either in like equity or a fee, or I take my 2% instead of a fee, whatever that would be, I put it towards the deal as if I was investing as an equity investor in the project and get paid that way. That's what I would expect. So kind of like what a realtor gets paid. I wholesale apartment complexes to students and people on our VIP buyers list and stuff. And I say, hey, just kick me 2%. If you end up closing the deal, kick me a 2% fee or kick me a couple of points of equity in the project. But that's typically what a realtor makes. And if you're wholesaling or sourcing the deal, you can expect to make somewhere in there. Have I paid more? Yeah, I've paid 10% to people before because they brought me a smoking deal. And if they forwarded an email, I pay them usually 1%. But dude, on a $15 million project, that's 150 G's for forwarding an email. That's not a bad
day in the office.
Yeah.
Somebody said that the Commercial Empire event, that you have the slides that shows the different breakdowns of the ownership deals.
Yep. I have so Commercial Empire is I don't have a bunch, like, I didn't come on here to like sell shit, guys, but
No, please, I'm sure you got everybody fired up. So tell us how we can find you. How can we work with you?
Naturally questions come up. Hey dude, how do you coach? Do you mentor? Do you do this? So I don't have a bunch of stuff. I don't have like a, run to the back of the room with a $50,000 credit card. I don't do anything like that. I have essentially two offerings, right? Well, I guess the software is offering number 3. So I got the software. Cool. You buy the software, you do it on your own there. We're going to have a Facebook group. We have a private Facebook group for anybody who buys that, where we jump on with my acquisitions director once a week on an Ask Me Anything. And he's just talking through, what to do, how to do it, all that kind of stuff. So if you buy the software, you got access to the private Facebook group. So that's number 1. Number 2 is Commercial Empire. That's my 3-day training event. It's done virtually. This used to be $5,000 when it was in person before COVID hit. After COVID hit, we made it virtual. It's $1,000, $997 now. So you can come out. I host it only like 3 times a year, but you also get a recording of it too. So that's commercialempire.com, commercialempire.com, and 3-day event on how to find off-market direct seller deals, how to underwrite apartment complexes, how to raise private money and handle all the due diligence, how to structure the financing, how to do the renovations, how to handle property management, asset management, business development, and then what it would look like, which is what Ryan's talking about, like equity splits and stuff too. So that's $997. You get access to another private Facebook group, a lot of money, a lot of deals going on in that group, and some cool conversations too. So check that out. You get access to the recording immediately. And then Commercial Empire Deal Flow, CE Deal Flow is the software. And then we have a mastermind called Legacy Family. And we get together 3 times a year. And then we have daily boardroom calls that you can plug into once a week, once a month, every single day if you want, with my executive team. And these aren't like coaches, right? Like, these are multiple 6-figure executives who run a 9-figure portfolio. We own $400 million of real estate. And it's my director of acquisitions every Monday on a boardroom call. You can ask them any question you want. It's my COO every Tuesday, who put all of our SOPs together and KPIs and all of our processes and procedures and everything. He's there every Tuesday. My chief investment officer, who's also my attorney, is available every Wednesday. You guys pepper him with questions about raising money. We've raised over $100 million of mom and pop money before for our deals. And then my director of HR is there every Thursday. And then it's either me or a guest on Fridays, just helping out. And then we get together 3 times a year at big, fun, badass, exciting events. We got a big one coming up in June in Denver. And we got some really cool stuff. We rented out Coors Stadium the one night. So we go have a happy hour down on the field. And that's where the Colorado Rockies play. And then have dinner over there. And just, we got top of the shelf, top line speakers, discussion panelists. We do some roundtable hot seats, and then just over the top kind of fun, cool things to do in whatever the cities we go to are. So we were in Vegas, we've been in Orlando, we've been Puerto Rico, Austin, Texas, we did one. Yeah, so we got some cool stuff lined up for this year. But yeah, that's legacyfamilymastermind.com is the mastermind. So you guys check that out too.
I'll be joining soon. I recommend everybody does the same. I think we're going to get out here. Daniel, you have one more question?
Yes, I always like ending with this one is what is a quote that is yours or somebody else's that you resonate with?
I mean, the one that I sign the signature on my email is be your best. And if I was in my office in Cleveland, Ohio, like I live in Charleston, South Carolina, but it would say be your best real big behind me. And yeah, I'm a believer in not just doing, right? Doing is like a one-time effort in my mind, right? Like being is a state of being always trying to be, right? Yours, right? You don't have to be the best, right? Like there's always going to be somebody who's further along, not better than you, just further along than you. There's no such thing as somebody who's better. They've been doing it longer, or they're further along in the process than you are. So I don't like sweating that. And I don't like sweating and comparing yourself to other people. So be your best, right? Like compare yourself to you. That's the only fair comparison you can make. Make sure that you are better today than you were yesterday or a year ago or 2 years ago, and that you're better tomorrow than you are today. And then the best, dude, like why not strive, right? Like a freaking, how tall will a tree grow? As tall as it possibly can. Like we humans are given the dignity of choice, and we can either be more, be everything, or be less, right? Like why not be everything? Why not go all out? So that's just kind of my thought philosophy, and I sign all my signatures on all my emails with be your best. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, it sounds like we could have a fun conversation about philosophy, man. I love that. Be your best. That's amazing. Thank you so much, man. I hope we get to do this again. Can't tell you how grateful we are for you sharing your time with us. We know you're a busy man. Guys, please check out Tim. If you don't know who he is, please look this man up, and all the value he provided today at the price that he's providing it at, to me, my mind is absolutely freaking blown, man, because I'm sure that would have took me at least 10 years to pick up all the nuggets that you can provide at that price point. That's insane. So thanks a lot for being on here, man. We really appreciate you.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you for having me. If there's ever anything I can do, don't hesitate to reach out. So
I'm already looking for deals for you right now, man.
I love it.
Thank you, brother.
Have a great week, guys.
Talk to you soon, man. Thank you so much.
The show is sponsored by The List Guys. Do you need more leads in your local or virtual market? 1 in 10 small businesses don't invest in any kind of marketing. The List Guys have over 35 plus list types to choose from, and you can mix and match any list or criteria. We also use the skip trace list and provide up to 7 numbers and email addresses. Every list you purchase will be scrubbed against previous purchases. The List Guys are here to save you time. Contact the List Guys today at www.1listguys.com. That's www.1listguys.com.